Hey guys, Carrie for Homeland, Season 5, Episode 6, Parabiosis. And I was definitely looking forward to this episode. The past two episodes have been really great, and this was quite a sad episode, definitely. There were some really sad things that happened in this episode. But probably one of my favorite episodes this season, definitely. I really loved this episode overall. There was some really great stuff going on in this episode. Some really tough scenes, definitely. Probably the saddest episode we've had all season. But I really like the way the season is going. I know a lot of people aren't enjoying this season because the characters are divided and they have to do things on their own. I get that, but I kind of like it because it's different from what they usually do. This is a completely different season. Everyone's divided, and I definitely think it's really great. Let's just get in this episode. There's a lot to get into as usual, and let's get into it. So we start at a prison. We don't actually start with Saul and Allison. Probably one of the first times we haven't for 3 episodes. So we start at prison, and prison names are called, and they're given their little Muslim hats, and they're all released. And it's the allegations of illegal spying by the U.S. and Germany that set them free. Laura asks Zaid if he plans to return to Syria. He refused to answer her and tells her to get out of his way. And a guy with Laura says she must be glad she got him out. She got him out. A man picks up Zayed, who says they have much to do, and we don't know where he's taking Zaid, but basically Carrie gets out of the cab and Saul follows her, and obviously she has now reunited with Saul in this episode, and some really interesting stuff with them in this episode. She says how he tried to take her out and he calls bullshit. She thinks that Saul is the one responsible for all this, and she says someone put her name in his kill box. She says there was a shootout at his dead drop and he must have seen it on the news. Then says that Quinn was hit, and Saul doesn't have answers. Even though they've said, Saul isn't responsible, she still kind of feels like he is. And she says the Russians did it. She says the bomb in Syria was also meant for her. He asks why the Russians gave a shit about her. She says there's something in the hacked documents that they don't want her to see. And she says he needs to get to the documents for her. Then says Quinn made it look like she's dead, so she bought time. And Saul says she can't hand them over. He says that causes problems. She says his own agency is following him, but he doesn't believe her. That they're after him. He thinks that she's lying, and he says she built a wall between them and says they should stay on their own sides. She says she risked her own life to come to him, and he says, ask your hacker friends for the documents, and he leaves. He doesn't want to deal with her. So it's a really emotional scene. I mean, Saul usually is there for Carrie in a second. He's always there for her, but because of the fact that she's accusing him and he doesn't know what the hell she's talking about, he doesn't want to help her with this one, and it's really sad, but Saul left Carrie. That's when you know that things are going to be really crazy this season. I mean, Saul leaving Carrie, that's Carrie's, safety net, really. Saul is her safety net. If you remember last season, I said it many times, but there was that scene, of course, where Saul was going to kill himself to save Carrie. She didn't let him, and now she's thinking that he would have that he would have the audacity to do that to her, which obviously he didn't do. We know it was Allison, but Saul, of course, didn't know this. He didn't even know that Carrie was being targeted. He doesn't know about any of this. So Saul really is, he definitely is in the dark about a lot of things, and it's gonna be very interesting to see what happens with that. So Zaid gets a hero's welcome in his neighborhood. He goes upstairs, gets warm greetings all along the way, and Quinn, of course, I didn't know it was gonna have a Quinn, because obviously Quinn, as we know, is badly hurt right now. He is bleeding, and he's in that apartment building being cared for by a Muslim doctor, the doctor that found him. Saul takes the cab to his hotel, then notices he's his CIA tail, just as Carrie told him, and he waits for the elevator and looks around. He starts noticing things. Finally, he's noticing that something's wrong here. Allison finds Saul outside her building, asks him what's going on. He says that he's being followed, then asks if she's being followed too. And he says she doesn't seem surprised. Of course, you can tell that he's starting to get a bit suspicious about why she's not acting so surprised and why this doesn't seem like that big of a deal to her. And then he asks if she ordered it. She says Dar did, and he says their plans for Syria blew up with the plane. And she says something in the wreckage implicated Israel, then says she should have told him. He agrees she should have. He says he wants the station checked for bugs, and says if it's not bugged, they have an even bigger problem. And the man who then found Quinn argues with, and that is a big problem. Obviously, they want to know what's going on here, because again, Saul really didn't know what's going on. So the man who found Quinn argues with another man, Zaid, about Quinn, and Zaid says that it comes in, then asks if he's a spy. Zaid shakes him, and the man says he's under a sedative and says he can't talk. He says the man was so weak, and he transformed with his own blood. He says Allah commands them to be kind to guests. Zayd says he shouldn't have made him a guest, and Carrie then comes back and sees that Jonas is there alone, and, this was probably the last time we're going to see Jonas. I don't think we're really going to see him much after this episode. Really sad, but it was inevitable what happened between them in this episode. Basically, Quinn is gone. He says he looked everywhere for him, and he's been gone 20 hours. And I like how Jonas has, even though he's not very happy about Quinn, he's kept his promise to Carrie. He's been looking out for Quinn. Obviously, Carrie said, make sure nothing bad happens to Quinn, and that's what Jonas has been doing. And, he says he's been gone 20 hours. He says he thinks Quinn went out to die, and he doesn't know, obviously, where he is. So Jonas rants at Carrie, says that there's no way to live. He says she needs to go to the authorities, but says she doesn't know who to trust anymore. She doesn't really know who's on her side at this point. And he says trust him, then says he's going home, asks her to come with him. She asks she asks for time to think it through. She says she just saw Saul, and he refused to help her get the documents. Jonas tells her to shut up about the documents, then says the man walked out that door bleeding to save her. He says he's leaving. He's done, and then he goes, and basically telling her, you're going to be safer if you come with me than if you continue doing what you're doing. And obviously, I'm not saying that Jonas isn't aware of the situation, but you can tell that he obviously wants things to be back to normal, but because of what's happened to Carrie, things just can't get back to normal right now. It really sucks, but that's the situation they're in. Carrie's being targeted so badly that they can't get things back to normal, and, I think that's the end. Honestly, I think that's the end of Jonas and Carrie. He's giving her enough chances. She's giving him enough chances. They just can't be together now. I mean, she's being targeted. She can't be with anyone right now. It really sucks, but she can't. So, and of course, she goes with Jonas, and she does decide to go with him. Who knows what could happen? Someone could find out that this is Carrie. They could they could be a target. I mean, she still doesn't know who's after her. So, a lot of things you can tell are definitely going through her head here. So, the sweep for bugs starts at the CIA station. They go room by room clearing it, and Saul oversees it, and Allison says it's not a good time for this. He says they have no choice. Dar shows up and writes a note, talk now. They step into a private room, and of course, Allison's main goal, like I said, is to turn Saul and Dar against each other, and you really start to see here that it's probably working. Dar asks what authority this is under, Saul asks why Dar didn't set up a sweep, then asks why he's being tailed, and is anyone else being tailed, and Saul says he knows what this is about, and says he leaked 3 names, 30 years to Mossad, and he says Dar is hanging on to it like it's yesterday, and Dar says he went to Itai, and Saul says to make sure he's not involved, and Dar says that Itai was there, and Saul says it was the Russians. Allison lurks nearby listening, loving pretty much every second of it, because again, this is something that she's created. Dar says that Saul is screwing his coworker, and he's sick of his bad judgment. They tell each other to fuck off, and Dar says he's bringing in a polygraph expert. Dar says come clean right now, or else. Saul says he told him who it was. Dar asks where he got that from, and Saul says nothing. Dar says he'll face the machine tomorrow and storms out, and obviously he's really upset. I mean, this is all coming out of nowhere for Dar. Everything that Saul is talking about, again, Dar was completely in the dark about, and it's just a really great scenes of misunderstanding. I definitely really like these scenes between Saul and Dar. Dar's not a character we see a lot, and I like the extended focus we have in this episode. In fact, this episode primarily was focused on Saul. Saul really was the star of this episode, which I liked. So Quinn wakes and looks around. He sits up in pain and stands. He walks with his bottle down the hall looking for a place to dump it because he peed in it, and he took a piss in it. He finds a bathroom, dumps it, then flushes. He goes to the sink, looks at his wound, and sees it's still draining, but it does look better. It is getting better. He hears a man saying they humiliated all of us and talking about how they will kill thousands of them, each for them, here in Germany. And he knows that this guy is not to be trusted. He knows that there's someone there. The rescuer tells him he needs to lie down. Quinn says he should tell his friend to plug the event or they'll be heard. Zayd hears them talking also through the vent and comes to stare at him up the stairwell. Saul goes to his hotel and, just really intense stuff there. I mean, you don't know what's going to happen here with Quinn. It's really intense stuff. So Saul goes to his hotel room, and the key doesn't work twice. Then he does it on the 3rd try. He goes inside and looks around very cautiously. He doesn't know what he's going to find in this hotel room because, now he knows he's being targeted. For all he knows, there could be a sharpshooter in there waiting to kill him, for all he knows. So he shuts the drape, starts looking for bugs. He hears a noise and goes to see there's a door ajar. It's a maid, and he searches her cart while she stares shocked. He stops, and she says sorry. He basically says sorry. He hands her back the towels she dropped and goes back into his room. And at the During Foundation, During pulls into the parking deck as he gets a text from unknown and it says that I'm behind you. He gets out of his car and sees Carrie in her dark wig in a far corner, and he walks over to her, and of course, Saul's not going to help her, so the one person she's going to turn to is During. But again, I don't think that's the right thing to do because I think During illustrated part of this. I mean, obviously, Saul didn't know about this, Dar didn't know. During doesn't seem like he's that phased by it, and I wouldn't be surprised if During had something to do with this. So he walks over to her. She says she's staying at a security camera. She says the people after her think she's dead, so she has to disappear. She heads a car, looks around cautiously. She says she hates to ask him for help. Then she says she has nowhere else to go. He asks what she needs, and she says a plane he has to wear, and she says it's best if he doesn't know where she's going. And she tells the pilot 12 hours of fuel plus reserves. He says he's happy to help, but isn't sure this will help her. He says he'll do it if she's sure it's what she wants. Carrie says she went to Saul and says he was always there for her, but this time he wasn't, and it shocked her. I mean, this is the first time that Saul has not been there for Carrie. Obviously, this is very different for her. She's always used to Saul basically doing whatever the fuck she tells him to do, but now he's not, and you can tell that Saul probably has that regret because now he knows what's going on, knows that Carrie wasn't out of her mind. He probably didn't want to help her because he thought, like I said, Carrie was out of her mind, but obviously she wasn't, and he didn't know really what was going on. So now, obviously, I think he is going to try to apologize to her eventually. We'll have to see, though. So she then says that Carrie says he hates her, then says her friend Quinn was hurt and she didn't take care of him like she should have. He asks what the problem is, and she says she is, and she brings down those around her. And I like that Carrie's saying, look, I'm the problem here. It's something that Carrie really doesn't usually do. I mean, we're so used to Carrie, blaming other things that are her fault, blaming things that are her fault on other people. And I like that she's actually taking the blame and saying, okay, this is my fault. I did something in the past. I need to, face what I did. And I like that she's doing that. So she says she has an opportunity to go away and take the problems with her. He says she has him and Jonas, but she says she doesn't have Jonas. Then says she'd like to leave today, and Saul goes to the lie detector room, and the guy asks if Saul is ready. He says, just a minute. Saul walks down and asks for Ruben, the guy working on the network breach, because he's thinking that Ruben might be the guy that implanted the bug, and they tell him where to find him. Saul goes down there, asks how he's doing. He asks if there's anything about the Russians in there. They close the files when he comes in. Saul asks if they have a printout, and they tell him he's not on the list to see them. He says the list was revised this morning and tells Saul to talk to Dar. And Saul goes to his computer, tries to log in, but gets a non-authorization warning. So that's really strange. Obviously, he can't access onto his own computer. So he tries again, then curses. He sees the people walk by. Obviously, someone hacked into it. They're checking the bugs. He tells the guy he needs him to check something and tells him to bring his stuff. He goes, gets them to start in another room, which distracts the guy. He hops onto that guy's computer, copies the hack files onto a flash drive, then creeps out through another door. And Quinn looks much better. He looks like he's actually doing very well right now. He tells Quinn that it's safer for him to stay in this room instead of walking around. Quinn says that Hussein has done enough. He says he was a doctor back home but can't practice here because they won't honor his license. And he says his wife, Astrid, was a doctor too and died in a clinic bombing back home. And of course, she didn't die, but Quinn doesn't know that. He doesn't know that Astrid didn't die. And he says he manages this building now. So I'm wondering if Astrid, what's going to happen with that? If he ever comes in contact with her, I don't really know what's going to happen there. So he says he manages this building now. Two men come and tell Quinn to come with him. Quinn tells Hussein it's okay. He says Zaid was screaming crazy things and says they can't be happy that he's back. Quinn walks over to them slowly, goes to see Zaid. Hussein goes along. He says he's not a spy and says that we're talking too loud. Zaid chases him out, then tells the other guy that this guy heard their plans, and Quinn says he heard a few words and it doesn't make sense. He tells Zaid he knows he just got out of jail and says he's under surveillance and will be caught and locked up for life. He then says maybe Zaid wants to go back to jail and so he doesn't have to go back to Syria and fight the real Jad. And Quinn says he's spent enough time in Syria to know how bad it is. He says, kill me or don't. Then says, just make sure whatever you do that the police aren't watching. I thought it was interesting that he's told them to kill him. I mean, he knows what he needs to do here. So he walks to Hussein, they walk away, and obviously they're not going to kill him. They're very intimidated by him. And I like how Quinn, even though he is, in pain and hurt, he's still able to be a badass. I love seeing that. So the tech tells Allison that Saul took the hacked documents just a few minutes ago. Dar comes in and tells Allison that Saul skipped the poly, and Allison says he took the docs. Turns out he slipped the people who were following him, and Allison then calls Saul and says she knows he took the documents, and again, she's trying to make this seem like this is all Saul's fault, and she's doing a very good job. Like I said, Allison is definitely doing a very good job acting like, she's completely innocent, and she tells him to come back in, says she can square things with Dar. They get Saul's location tracing the call. She asks what it is in the documents, and he asks if Dar is with her. She says yes. Saul says it's what he already told him, Russians, and Saul is at a restaurant and follows During in, and he says he wants to talk to him about Carrie. Obviously, very interesting conversation. He tells the guy that Carrie came to him for help, and he says he didn't trust her because of him, and he says he has something for him to give Carrie. He says this is for Carrie alone, not for his people to post or to tweet, and he says he doesn't have lawn. And two CIA men come in. During says they have no authority here, says this is a private club. They ask if they can search During, who tells the others in the restaurant that these men are CIA and want to search his guest and room and guests and him. He says he will consent if they apologize to everyone in the room. When they don't, when they don't find what they're looking for, they're both searched by the CIA men, and nothing turns up. Of course, nothing turns up, and they grab Saul and During. They grab Saul, and During tells them they have to apologize. They make a curt apology and haul Saul outside, and he goes to them peacefully. So then we get what I think is probably one of the most emotional scenes we've had all season. Because, of course, Carrie has to pretend that she's dead. She has to pretend she's dead. She has to pretend that she's gone. And in order for her to do that, she has to get rid of some of her personal life. She looks at these photos of her, Frannie, and Jonas. And you can tell that she's looking at these, just thinking, this is the life I could have had. This is what I want in life. I really care about my family. And she's realizing that she cares about her family so much, she has to delete all the messages, including the photos. And it's a really sad scene, but that's just how it is. So, there's really nothing she can do. Obviously, she's being targeted. She can't have these photos here. People are going to find her, and she needs to not have them there. So Quinn gets ready to leave. Hussein has medicine for him to take, but then says he's not well enough to go, and says he should stay one more night. Quinn thanks him for taking care of him. He asks if Quinn has somewhere to go and someone to look after him. He says he does. One of the men tells Quinn he knows he's not a spy, but Zayd wants to execute him. He says only one man supports him, and he asks why Quinn was in Syria, then asks why. Quinn implies that he's mercenary, and the man asks if he really thinks the police are watching him, and he tells Quinn that Zayd is no Amir, like he implied, and basically During apologizes to the club as he leaves for the disturbance. He finds something in his coat when he gets it from the coat check late girl, and maybe During is not responsible, honestly. I think after the scene, I don't know if During necessarily is responsible and is working with Allison. I still don't think he's of good intentions, but I don't know, maybe I estimated the guy. I feel like he is evil, not doing something good. But after this scene, I'm not really sure. We'll have to see where that goes. So, because we don't know where that's going, obviously. Carrie asks the driver to make a quick detour. She gets out of her old apartment and stares through the window at Jonas, who's in the kitchen. She looks for a moment, then she walks away. And again, she's just thinking, this is the life I could have had. This is what I could be doing. Really powerful stuff there. Hussein then wishes Quinn luck. Zayd lurks in the street nearby with some men. He limps toward the hulking Zayd and his men. He says he's sorry if he caused them trouble, says he's leaving, he has no quarrel with him. He says, let me pass. And Zayd says he will cut his prick and shove it down his throat. He has a knife, comes at Quinn, punches Quinn while he's injured. Quinn gets his knife, cuts his throat so fast no one saw it, and that was insane. I mean, he just cuts the guy's throat. He's dead. And the way that Quinn was able to do that was awesome. And I like that Quinn was trying to be reasonable. He was trying to be a reasonable guy, saying, hey, let me get through. But Zayd didn't want to, so he cut him up. And I think that was smart of Quinn. So Quinn staggers to a chair and sits. The guy who spoke to him earlier tells to remove the other bodies of the martyr brother. Then he goes to Quinn and tells him he must stay another night, says he'll be safe now. And Hussein checks his wounds. And then the end of the episode, Carrie's driven to an airport. She gets out. During is waiting by the plane. She goes over to him. He hands her the drive, says it's from Saul. He says Saul said it. She know what to do with it. And he walks away. And he did give what Saul wanted to give to Carrie at the end of the episode. And that's how the episode ends. So overall, guys, really great episode. Saul and Carrie, I definitely think are going to make amends. This is definitely going to be Saul's way of apologizing to Carrie, because obviously he didn't really know what was going on. He thought that she was just being crazy. He thought she was being irrational. Now that he knows what's going on, he definitely wants to make that effort to help out Carrie, and I definitely really like seeing that. What is Saul going to do? What is on this flash drive? I think it's probably like the hacker stuff, but what is on this flash drive? We'll have to see what happens with that. During seems like he's not working with Saul now. It seems like it is working out, that he actually does care about Carrie. We'll have to see But Allison's plan is working. Dar and Saul are definitely against each other, and it's going to be interesting to see how far she can go with this. I mean, obviously, this is her plan right now, but how far do you really think that Allison can go with this? I'm not really sure. I mean, she's doing so well now. Who knows how long this is going to take? I mean, it could take a very long time. Quinn needs to get to a hospital, and hopefully he can get there because obviously he needs to get his wound check. It seems like Hussein is gonna help get him to a hospital, but who is Hussein really someone we should trust? I'm not really sure. We'll have to see. What happens with that definitely. Is Carrie ever gonna see Jonas again? I don't think so. I think she wants to, but she knows that since she's being hunted, she has to pretend she's dead. So she probably can never see Jonas again, and it's really sad, but that's just the reality. She can't see Jonas right now because she is in danger. And if she wants to protect her family and ensure that they're safe, she has to pretend she's dead. And again, sad, but she needs to do that. It was inevitable if that needed to happen. So unfortunately, she really has no choice but to do that. And I wish that there was another choice for Carrie, but unfortunately, there's not one. That's the only choice that's available at this point, and we'll have to see what happens with that as well. Nothing with Laura really at all. We'll have to see what happens with that. Laura and Zayd, what is Laura gonna do? Again, we didn't really see much of Laura in this episode. Let me know what you guys saw this episode. This was definitely one of the strongest episodes of the season. I will see you guys in my next video, which will be for tonight's episode of Supergirl, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.